Now let's do something that's more close to the real world, right? Let's say I have a list of stuff, right? A lot of names. Let's say names. I'm gonna say add some names here. And what if I want to show the first of the first element in this list? So I can say names, square brackets 0. Now, and a lot of programming languages start counting from 0, so that's why I'm not saying 0, not 1 here. I save this, and I'm going to see the first name in the list, right? Now here's the thing, all these names are lowercase. What if I want to greet them formally with proper grammar and stuff and have first letter capitalized? Now, I can make a function that capitalizes a single name and iterate over all of these names, so I don't have to go in and manually do that, right? So let's test it first. Let's just make a function. Leave these names here, and but I'll just make a function that's called capitalize first letter, and it's gonna take a name, and it's gonna return a new name. Right, and that new name we're gonna define over here. Let new name equals. Let's leave it empty for now. Right. Here's what we can do. Now, in order to test this thing, we just call it over here. Capitalize first letter. I'm just gonna put it a name, any name. So in this case, we could just use the first name in our list. So names 0. Right, and the result from that, I can store it into a test variable. Let's say test, and I can console log that variable. Now this is just a constant. This just means once I assign that to something, I can't later say test equals something. This is gonna give me an error if I try it. Right, so if I just try that, I'm just gonna return, I should return an empty string, right? Because it's taken in the name, but it's not doing anything, so it's just taken in the empty string. So I refresh it, I don't see anything. That's what's supposed to happen. So if I put something else here, I should see something else, right? There we go. So here's the deal. What we can do is we can take the name, we can take the first letter and the last, so to take the first letter, capitalize it, and then merge it back with the other letters, right? So let's do that, right? So if I get the let's just use constants because we're not going to change it much anyway. Let's first letter is going to equal to name 0. Actually, it turns out that this thing, that's a string, right? So a string is actually a list of characters. So we can use the same notation here to access particular indexes of that list, right? So the first letter is going to be that, right? Let me just test. Returning the first letter here. See what's going to happen. So this should say V. And there we go. It says V. All right. Now, what I can do, I'll take the first letter, and to get the other letters, what we can do, let's make another variable. We can slice this name on the first index, and what that's going to do is just going to cut off everything before the first index. So the first index being that. So starting to count from 0, this is 0, and this is the first index. So it's going to slice it over here and turn this part. Now let's troubleshoot that. Let's test it. Say return other letters. Save it, and then refresh, and now we see all the other letters. And that's working. So all we can do now is return. So first of all, actually, let me explain what this dot slice is, right? Remember how we had the object, person object? It had a method inside it that allows you to do stuff. So in the same way, every list has a slice method inside it that lets you do stuff, right? So we're just using the fact that, you know, this is a string and a list, and it has functionality embedded into it, right? So the same way name has slice, well, the first letter has something called to uppercase, because it's a string, and every string has this to uppercase method, right? So if I return that, right, I can see a capital V. Now that's closer to what we were looking for, right? So all I have to do now is just merge, like glue all the letters together. So the capitalized first letter and the other letters. And if I save that and refresh, now I'll see, now I have a nicely formatted name. All right, so we have this function. Now, how can we apply this function to all of these elements, right? So I want to show you a really cool function that's built into all lists in JavaScript. It's called map. Now, I'll make a new variable. Let's say const new names equals names.map, capitalize first letter. And what map's gonna do, right? Map takes in a function, right? Map takes in the function, loops through the list, and applies the function to every single element, and returns the new list with the result from the function applied, right? So basically, what it's gonna do is let's run it. Let's run it to see what happens. New names. Console log new names. Save that. And now we see we have a list of names with capitalized first letters. Because what map did is it took our function and applied it to every single element, and then returned a new list of the new elements that were resulting from this. You might be asking yourself, well, what's up with all these, console logs? When are we going to show something on the screen? And that's a good point, right? We're making a website and there's nothing on the screen except this dumb console, and no one's going to see it. It's only for developers. So let's do that as a finisher, right? So going back to our index HTML, we can, in the body, out here at the top bit, we can make a section. And we're going to give that section an ID. Let's call it app. And what if we want to say hello, all of these names, right? We can't just hard code them in here, right? So here's what we can do. We can access that ID from JavaScript because the browser lets us do that, right? And then render a new heading, right? So we're gonna get rid of console log now, and we're gonna get down to business. So I can grab the section, the main section, which we called app, by saying document query selector. Whoa, all right. Let's say app equals document query selector, and let me say app here. Now, what document is like? Document is a global variable. It's defined in the browser. So the browser knows what the document is, and the document is this whole thing, right? Let me close that. So this whole thing is a document, and you can do a lot of stuff to it, right? So in this case, I can query it for sections, like in case stuff with an ID, like this has an ID app, right? So now I can say, I can get this thing, this element, section, And I can say app.inner HTML equals new names. Because I've already got my new names here. Let's see what's going to happen if I refresh. Well, nothing. App is null. Why is it null? I don't know. Let's see, document query selector. Well, maybe if I actually need to say hash, because query selector. All right, here we go. Yeah, well, in order to access IDs in the query selector, you need the hash, because, that's the sign for ID. But here we go, we have something on the screen.